Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott Reads Comics. The cover tells the tale on this one. This is it, Legends, number 6, the conclusion of the 6-part miniseries by Ostrander, Wayne, Byrne, and Kessel. So here we have it, folks. We've arrived at the moment where we finish this incredible classic DC miniseries with issue 6. Opening up to our splash page, we have a title that is very fitting, Finale. And this bit of text at the top, suns in the cathedrals, whispered in the shadows, ever unchanging, seldom unchanged, bright incandescence, the black of the pit, such is the stuff of legends. The planet Apocalypse, very embodiment of desolation and misery. Darkseid says, victory is finally mine, stranger, and never has anything tasted so sweet. Your celebration seems a trifle premature, Darkseid. The battle is not yet over. So we have these two going back and forth as they have throughout the series. And before we turn the page and get into it further, let's quickly review our creative crew for this final issue of Legends. John Ostrander is the plotter, Len Wein is the scripter, John Byrne, the penciler, Carl Kessel, inking pages 1 to 20, and Dennis Janke, inking pages 21 to 30. Steve Haney is the letterer, Carl Gafford is back as a fill-in colorist, and Mike Gold is the editor. All right. So now these two continue their debate, these two cosmic beings of the DC universe. A mere technicality, stranger. It's only a matter of time. And Darkseid goes on, but the stranger retorts, you are supremely powerful, Darkseid, but you have presumed too much. Have I? How? Within moments, all of Earth's legends will be completely destroyed, as I swore they would. Everything is going precisely according to plan. And this next page here, page and a half, quickly recounts the previous 5 issues of Legends, everything that went on with the arrival of G. Gordon Godfrey, his preternatural ability to stir up the masses into violent mobs, turning them against superheroes, manipulating President Reagan into signing an executive order banning superheroes from plying their trade on the streets, setting up Captain Marvel to think he somehow killed someone, effectively disbanding the Justice League. All that stuff is covered. Soon the underlying envy and distrust the Earthmen feel will drive them to destroy their heroes, to destroy all symbols of greatness. Thus, the only legend left upon the earth will be mine. Darkseid is really enjoying himself here. But the stranger, ever the opponent, says, a fascinating plan, Darkseid, but still one ultimately doomed to failure. In your pride and arrogance, you have ignored one crucial factor in your equation, and that uncontrollable factor will prove your downfall. Great use here of an open panel with just basically white space and a silhouetted figure of the stranger with the exception of his one white glove. Very cool use of like white on white there. And what X factor, if I may say, is the stranger suggesting? Well, we'll see as we move along in our story. We're going to shift scenes. Renowned for its great monuments and tree-lined avenues, Washington, D.C. draws millions of visitors every year. But those who have gathered in the nation's capital today are not interested in such mundane matters, but only in the mesmerizing word of their newfound shepherd, G. Gordon Godfrey. So great shot here by our art team of DC as a city, as a capital. And then back in front of the Lincoln Memorial, we have Godfrey and his crowd of stirred up mobs here. And as if you remember from last issue, they were being confronted by an assemblage of heroes who were defying the president's executive order. So Godfrey is taken none too kindly to that. The only thing that remains in our way is them, those so-called superheroes. Despite the president's direct order, they stand before us in direct defiance of all we believe. How long will we let them mock us, my friends? How long? Meanwhile, just as an aside, Godfrey was also calling for the downfall of the presidency as well. So he's kind of trying to play both sides here. And then the Assemblage of Heroes is joined by one more notable addition, John Johnson, the Martian Manhunter. So he's a powerful addition to the assemblage. Nevertheless, I go where I am needed, Manhunter says after Fate says, but I did not summon you. And Batman adds, well, you're certainly needed here, Manhunter. Welcome. And Superman asks the fateful question, is the rest of the Justice League behind you, John? I'm afraid not, Superman. At this moment in time, the Justice League of America no longer exists. But before they can go on, or before the Martian Manhunter can elaborate, things are getting serious. The Warhounds, prompted by Godfrey, move into attack. And Flash quickly saves Black Canary from a mauling by one of the Warhounds. And Shazam steps up, splang, and delivers a vicious right uppercut to another rushing forward. Meanwhile, Godfrey, or I should say Guy Gardner, also leaps into action. I should add here, importantly, Shazam is very much aware of what could have happened previously, even though he wasn't responsible for Macro Man's death. He says, can't risk injuring the Warhound's controllers. Gardner, though, has really no such limitations. That's the difference between us, Captain Marvel. You actually care about these creeps. Flash warns Black Canary and everyone listening that they need to be careful because there are actual people who are just bamboozled by Godfrey inside of these Warhounds. An awesome panel here. Dr. Fate uses his incredible eldritch powers to make these two Warhound controllers intangible and lift them out of the vehicle. It's essentially a vehicle, symbiotic vehicle. And then Superman, scrang, crushes it with his incredible power. Batman, looking at that and then taking on a Warhound of his own, says, easy for him to say, he can move mountains with a shrug, but I have to handle this berserker the hard way. Lights out, loser. Hey, no, you can't. So Batman leaps up onto the back, somehow gains entry into the Warhound and knocks both pilots out, and then the whole thing collapses. And Godfrey is raging. You think you've gained the upper hand, fools, but you're wrong. My Warhounds are all over this city, ready to wreak destruction, and if that isn't enough, so then a Stargate opens. They're calling them Stargates in this series, which is sort of weird. I meant to mention this a couple episodes ago. They're boom tubes, right? I mean, I don't know at what point the terminology changed from boom tube to Stargate, but either way, it's a means of dimensional teleportation. And so now, in addition to the Warhounds, Darkseid is teleporting in a host of parademons. Parademons! Darkseid Soldier Elite, Superman exclaims. And a great panel here. You can see the sky is just filled with them. Looks like a bunch of escapees from the Wizard of Oz, if you ask me. But what do I know? I live in Chicago, Blue Beetle says. And kind of gearing up for his role as a funny man in the upcoming Justice League series. He's got the good quips going. Again, similar to Spider-Man, a wacky quipster. So here, Dr. Fate gives the crew their marching orders. You see now why I summoned you here, my friends. The fate of all humanity now rests in your hands. As usual, Gardner sneers. What do you want us to do, Fate? Superman asks. What you were born to do, all of you. Fight for the right, defend the weak and oppressed. Go now, my friends, and do what must be done. Go in the name of justice. Batman remarks, best invitation I've had all day. So great shot here of them all streaking out in different directions to take care of the crisis that is now developing in the Capitol. Dr. Fate remains to calm the crowd, and but Godfrey has a surprise for him. The one called Dr. Fate is in position, my faithful one, and distracted by the crowd. The moment for you to strike is now. And as Fate's trying to mollify the crowd, depart in peace, good people. Please do not force me to, eh? Great shot here of a parademon streaking by and literally tearing the helmet of Naboo off of Kent Nelson's head. The helmet is where the actual creature Fate resides, and so when Kent puts that helmet on, he becomes Dr. Fate. So very cool. So is Kent Nelson without the helmet? Is he going to be the victim of some mob violence here? And with it went the persona of Dr. Fate. I'm merely Kent Nelson again. And am I in trouble? Hey, under that freaky mask, you ain't nothing special. You're just another guy like us. Yeah, a traitor to your own kind. So the crowd's about to descend on him, but this is, Kent Nelson is no normal mortal, it turns out. Hey, come back here, traitor. Face us like a man. And Kent Nelson thinks. Fortunately, even as Kent Nelson, I still retain some small portion of Fate's mystic energies, giving me super strength and the power of flight. So that kind of harkens back to the long history of this Dr. Fate character. He goes back to the golden age of comics, where there was a period where he didn't have the full helmet of Naboo. He wore kind of a half helmet. And in that guise, he was basically like just another Superman type character. And I don't know the sort of twisted and involved history fully of this character, but I want to say, and someone can correct me in the comments, that one of the reasons they did that was to kind of make him more relatable to fans at the time, because he was just so powerful with the helmet on. But there may be more to it than that. Either way, Fate escapes, and he's got to find the helmet. He thinks to himself as he's flying off, now I've got to track that parademon and regain the helmet, or Dr. Fate's days as Lord of Order may finally be over. And Godfrey smiles self-satisfactorily, and thus dies yet another legend. Won't Almighty Darkseid be proud of his glorious Godfrey? For the moment, my work is done. The rabble I've roused will keep those other heroes occupied while I take a brief detour to have a little chat with my reluctant prisoner. So, great use of thought bubbles here. Another reason I don't read modern comics is there are no thought bubbles, and really bothers me. I'm not sure why writers and editors would hamstring themselves by getting rid of such a powerful expository device. It makes no sense to me. It's part of the history of comics, and whoever decided that they were trite and shouldn't be used anymore, I'd like to have words with that person. But anyway, Godfrey goes to where Captain Boomerang, who was captured a few issues ago, is being held against his will by these warhounds. And Godfrey's going to try another strategy as opposed to threats to get to Boomerang. Perhaps, but until such time, we have much to discuss. The devil we do, I ain't telling you Jack. Come now, Captain. No need to be hostile. I already know most of the details. How you and your erstwhile companions destroyed the blazing behemoth Brimstone, for example. But why a group of so-called supervillains were working together to defend the world? Ah, now that is altogether another story entirely. So that's the ticket now, is it? You want to know why me and me mates turned do-gooder, eh? Well, you just call off them wicked-looking watchdogs of yours so's I can breathe a little easier, and I'll tell you, mate. Aye, old Digger will tell you plenty. And we see here a great shot of Boomerang talking, and then in the next panel, that same shot of Boomerang, but surrounded by a targeting lens. And I can pretty much guess who's on the other end of that. Deadshot. And the Suicide Squad appears again. Great. Love it when Byrne draws the Suicide Squad. Deadshot, no. Hey, what's the problem, Flag? Our orders were to either rescue Boomerang before he could reveal the existence of Task Force X or else ice him. But I'm the one who's supposed to decide which, and I think there's still a chance to free him. And Tranchus, are you ready? Always, Colonel. with my complete mastery over all things inorganic. A job like this is child's play. So great use, shot of the Enchantress here using her powers, cool magical crackle around her hands there. Good color work by Carl Gafford, who will go on to color these characters for the almost entire run of the Suicide Squad series, which we will be covering on the show, I might add. So in the next panel, we see the result of her powers. What? Something wrong with my Warhound? It's being transformed into strawberry jello? So she transforms one into strawberry jello, and the other one is blown apart here by the precise marksmanship of Deadshot. To the energy pits with Boomerang. Can't risk capture now, not when we're so close to victory. Godfrey, help us! He's covered in jello, the civilian says. Help yourselves. And here we have a great shot of Godfrey running down this alley, and from the bird's eye view, we see Flag and the Bronze Tiger spot him, and Flag orders Bronze Tiger to stop him. So awesome panel here of Bronze Tiger's acrobatic prowess as he parkours his way off the roof down to street level with some amazing acrobatic stunts. And Godfrey notices him and says, "Hey, there's nowhere left to go." "No, stay back. Don't hurt me." "Then freeze, friend. Your choice." So then, confronted but in close quarters, Godfrey is able to bring the full power of his voice, his preternatural hypnotic voice, to bear on the tiger. "No, your voice. I mustn't listen. I. Great bit of lettering here as the word balloons get smaller and the letters get smaller as Tiger's will begins to sap. And finally Godfrey says, "And you are mine." Great ISO on his mouth here, very cool. So we'll see where that goes. But meanwhile, back at the scene of Boomerang's rescue. "Okay, Colonel, we've rounded up Godfrey's grunts. Now what?" Deadshot asks. "Now we fulfill our primary mission, Deadshot. We get Boomerang, then we get out of here." "Good to see you, Colonel. Knew you wouldn't let old Digger down." "Sorry about them threats I made on the telly, mate. But you know I was only kidding, don't you? You know old Digger wouldn't really breathe a word about Boomerang." "Shut up." So Flag knocks Boomerang out. He says, "Let's find the tiger." He presumes the tiger has already captured Godfrey, and he wants them to exfil out of there so that they don't have any more exposure than they've already risked. Meanwhile, Batman, we get a couple great shots here of Batman in action against some of these gun-toting thugs. Looks like the local chapter of Thugs R Us has decided to use the Smithsonian for a shooting gallery. So they're, I guess, about to go into the Smithsonian to either rob it or do some acts of violence and mayhem, and Batman takes them out. And again, I've said it probably a half dozen times covering this 6-issue series. There are really no characters that John Byrne can't draw well, and his Batman is excellent. Really good use of the flowing cape. Here, excellent shot of him using his cape, presumably laced with Kevlar or some other impact-resistant fiber to block these bullet shots. And we'll flick away from Batman to Guy Gardner as he chases down a Warhound who's about to chew up some civilians. Great shot here of Gardner using his powers. Again, Byrne just masterful at drawing Green Lanterns and how they use their powers. So awesome to see these two tongs, these hammer tongs, come through and just crush the Warhound's head. But Guy Gardner he's really enjoying himself. Great shot of him smiling here maniacally, but he's being watched by a figure in the shadows here. "I had not intended to reveal my presence in man's world so soon after my arrival. But no Amazon worthy of the name can stand idly by while innocent blood is at risk." So it is Wonder Woman. And she streaks out of the alley at super speed, gets behind this Warhound, and hefts it into the air. And we have our first appearance of Wonder Woman in the series. And it was mentioned way back in issue 1 in the back matter that they wanted to use Wonder Woman earlier, but they had to wait because George Perez was launching the new Wonder Woman title. So here in issue 6, she finally shows up, and Byrne just crushes it here. She looks amazing. He would later go on, years later, to draw Wonder Woman. He would take over Wonder Woman series and draw it for, I don't know, draw and write it for a good pace, maybe 2 years. Some interesting art there, some later Byrne art, and we could cover that in a later episode. But here she says, Diana, Princess of the Amazons, whom those of man's world shall come to call Wonder Woman. And great shot of Gardner in the background going, eep. So she just totally smashes this Warhound with almost effortless power. For victory! Not bad, babe, Gardner says. You might just have a future in this biz. And you are? Guy Gardner, the one true Green Lantern. Then I suggest, if you are on the side of honor, that you stop ogling me and protect those you are sworn to protect. Before this madness is finally ended, there is much to be done that only such as we can do. And for the record, Guy Gardner, I am nobody's babe. And Gardner thinks to himself, now that is one tough broad. So pretty great interaction between those two very different characters. Switch scenes again, this time an all-out assault on the White House as somehow these terrorists blast their way into what looks like the Oval Office, and President Reagan seems to be at their mercy. But he doesn't seem very worried. This office will not bow to terrorism. You have exactly 5 seconds to surrender yourselves. Tough talk, old man. It'll make a nice epitaph. And this terrorist shoots him. Great, cool-looking kayfabe automatic weapon there. It's not possible. And you see here that the bullets had no effect on President Reagan, who appears to be bulletproof. Now you have 2 seconds. Time's up. Game's over. So he streaks over and knocks both guys out effortlessly. What idiots. And suddenly, the real Ronald Reagan steps into the room. Are you all right? He asked the other Ronald Reagan. And it turns out it is Martian Manhunter. Careful, sir. I still don't really trust this alien. Don't be a bonehead, Arthur. Green-skinned or otherwise, this man just risked his life for mine, and I intend to thank him. There are no thanks necessary, Mr. President. With my Martian physiognomy, I was never in any real danger. It was a simple matter of transforming myself to resemble you, and then awaiting the inevitable. Nevertheless, I'm in your debt. I won't soon forget what you did for me today. I'd have done the same for anyone. Now, if you'll excuse me, sir, there are others who have more pressing needs of my services. Callahan, call the press corps. I'm rescinding my executive order banning superheroes, effective immediately. But sir, do you really think that's wise? You bet I do, son. Wisest thing I've done these past few days. So great interaction here between Reagan and Martian Manhunter, and it crystallizes in the president the need to rescind his executive order. And we flash to yet another scene of action, and this is just one of the best pages in the whole series. Totally awesome here. We see Byrne and at this point, Dennis Janke's taken over the inks, shifting from this page to this page, and we can see a slight difference here. But the art is still fantastic, and we get to see Superman and Shazam / Captain Marvel in action against hordes of parademons, and both probably 2 of the most powerful characters in the DC universe strutting their stuff here on the page in this awesome split page sequence. Really great work. And Shazam says at the bottom of the page, now what say we pack them up and ship them back to the nightmare that spawned them? Shifting scenes again, a lot of quick scene shifts here to show all this action with all these different heroes. Cool shot of Flash and Changeling transformed into a gazelle to keep up with Flash. Once again, trying to control these mobs. And we see 2 of our lower powered characters, Blue Beetle and Black Canary, going at it in the thick of the fight here. You okay, Black Canary? Just fine, Beetle. I'm an old hand at this, remember? Better watch your own back. Great back and forth there between those two. And Changeling in this panel. And speaking of backs, Bozo, you've got a monkey on yours. I think that George Michael song, Monkey on Your Back, may have been out at this time. I didn't think to look it up prior to this starting this episode, but it may have even been in the top 40 at this time. I'm sure maybe Ostrander and Ween might have had it in the back of their minds. Anyway, fun little joke there. And Batman is back on the scene. Our ground forces are holding their own, but the odds are overwhelming. We could use a little help here. And as if on cue, the big guns show up. And as if in answer to the Dark Knight's silent summons. Great, 6 really great short vertical panels here of our big guns showing up, including Dr. Fate, but not Dr. Fate, Kent Nelson without the helmet of Naboo. Great shot here of the fight in the crowds. It's a good job by the colorist Gafford to use color to accentuate the action. So in the background, we have a sort of a yellow, neutral yellow background. In white, we have limned the buildings of the Capitol. And then all of the crowd, their bodies and clothes and everything are just grayed out, and except for their heads, which is interesting. But then our heroes are rendered in full color by Gafford. So we have Batman here, we're looking really cool with his tattered cape. He's obviously been in a lot of action. Black Canary doing a cool sidekick, Blue Beetle punching. So great shot of our street level heroes surrounded, and then suddenly the powerful heroes land and back them up. But Godfrey is now back on scene. No, don't listen to them, my friends. They are trying to deceive you. Stop now, and everything we fought for today will be for nothing. To ensure our dream of a new society, we must kill those cursed superheroes, my friends. You must destroy them all. And Bronze Tiger is flinching, but he can't escape Godfrey's control as he stands beside him watching. And another great shot of our 11 heroes arrayed here across the top of the page. Just their heads, really cool headshots. Facing off against this shot here of the mob, and then, and a universe away, a laugh like grinding granite cuts the stagnant air like a reaper's scythe. Great script by Ween here. Awesome scripting on this series. Satisfied now, stranger? Look at the precious humans snapping at their prey like dogs, like hunger dogs. You presume victory too quickly, Darkseid. The final scene of your little drama is still to be played. And here is what the stranger has been suggesting. The sort of trump card that he has been waiting to have played now finally shows up. And it is the children. Behold. No, stop. You mustn't do this, one of the kids says as he emerges from the crowd with others. Hey, what? Where'd all these kids come from? Please, folks, you gotta stop this. We ain't gonna let you touch these heroes. It's crazy, Mom, and it's wrong. And among them is Robin, still beaten and battered from his beating issues ago. Listen to them, folks. They're making sense. No matter what Godfrey says, you can't really believe that Batman and the others are menaces. Stop and think for a second. Remember all the good they've done. And Batman thinks, careful, Robin. You're dancing through a minefield here. And then our character Lisa, who was introduced all the way back in the second issue, is here with the kids too. A nice sort of tie-up of her role in the series. Well, we believe in these heroes and what they represent. You once told me we could all be heroes, Daddy, if that's what we wanted. Please, Daddy, be my hero now. And quietly, Lisa doesn't know that he's Shazam, but quietly Shazam is thinking, that's telling them, Lisa, keep it up, kid. No, you mustn't listen to her, my friends. See how these masked monsters have twisted her impressionable young mind. You must stop the ranting, dear child. You must stop it now. Stop it, do you hear me? Stop it. And Godfrey shows his true colors as the villain he is by backhanding Lisa to her knees. Slap. Did you see that? He slapped that kid. What kind of animal is he? Please, mister, don't hit me again. Forgive me, child, I don't mean to. No, their eyes. I've lost control, and they're too angry to succumb to my persuasive powers again. But fortunately, I have other options. The golden helmet of Dr. Fate, possessed of almost infinite power. I need only put it on to become more powerful than even Almighty Darkseid him. Ah! So he had it tucked away in his 80s style flowing trench coat. And he pulls it out and puts on the helmet of Naboo, but does not get the result he desired. It takes less than a second for the mystic power of the helmet of Naboo, the power of a Lord of Order, to slash through the racing mind of glorious Godfrey, and then it is gone, taking the slivered remains of Godfrey's mind with it. So a really great scene here of Godfrey on the ground, looks like a mental vegetable at this point, and Dr. Fate, Kent Nelson, kneels down to recover the helmet of Naboo. I'll take my helmet back now, if you don't mind. Thanks for finding it for me. Great shot here of the Bronze Tiger, now free of Godfrey's control, slipping away to rejoin Task Force X. So the crowd begins to apologize to the heroes, and Superman tries to reassure them. Your minds were being controlled. There's nothing to forgive. And Gardner isn't having any of it. The hell there isn't. No amount of brainwashing, no matter how potent, could do what Godfrey's did unless the seed had already been planted. Way down deep. These geeks have always distrusted us, maybe even feared, eh? So the wisdom of Solomon is about to take the fore here as Captain Marvel steps forward. Don't judge them so harshly, Green Lantern. We're as responsible for that as they are. Say what? It's part of our job to stand apart from humanity, to protect them from the threats only we can deal with. If you're looking for hero worship, friend, better look for it somewhere else. So here we go. A momentous thing is now about to happen as we close the series out. Wonder Woman adds, you make your point well, Captain Marvel. Whether they be worshipped or reviled, there will always be a need for true heroes. And here Fate nails it. And there is a need for a brotherhood of heroes. Though John Jontz has indicated that the Justice League has been disbanded, the purpose for which it was first joined is no less urgent in these dark days. What say you, my friends? Will you stand beside me in the name of justice? Batman says, in the name of justice, yes. Indeed I will. Nowhere else is truly home, Martian Manhunter adds. Gardner says he'll think about it. Canary says, well, you can count me in. Me too, Shazam says. And me, it's a chance to be part of a legend, Blue Beetle says. Flash is out. Changeling is out, but he offers them the opportunity to all join the Teen Titans. Importantly here, Superman says, as the Flash said, I'll be there when you really need me. And you, Wonder Woman? Wonder Woman, hey, she's gone. So Wonder Woman just takes a powder. So her appearance in the series was brief but impactful, and she's gone. So we have the core here of a new team, and what's that team going to be? We'll see her again, Batman says about Wonder Woman. Agreed. That lady is the very essence of the term hero. Well, Doc, you've got your recruits. Only question is, what are we going to call ourselves? And Fate says, I should think the answer to that would be obvious. Doc's right. There's a perfectly good name lying around right now, unused. I vote we call ourselves the Justice League, Beetle says with a smile. So, one more visit back to Apokolips. Thus the game is finally ended, Darkseid, and as I foretold, you have lost. You never truly understood how deeply ingrained the need for legends is within the human psyche. Instead of destroying the concept of legends, you have merely reaffirmed it. Bah! It was an entirely reasonable plan, but these cursed humans are too unpredictable. Still, it is only a temporary setback. In the end, humanity is destined to fall before the matchless might of Darkseid, the Destroyer. So we have our last shot of Darkseid's craggy face for this series. Great one by our art team. Dennis Janke's inks are a little edgier than Carl Kessel's, and Both are very good, but you can kind of see it here with Darkseid's face. It's a little more squared off. Good stuff, good stuff. And then here, our final page. We have a final word from the stranger. What constitutes a legend? Is it powers and abilities beyond those of mortal men, or is it a fighting heart that refuses to acknowledge defeat? For centuries beyond numbering, from the ancient campfires to the towering condominium, man has relied on the legends to hold back the night. Men call the phantom stranger. Men call me the phantom stranger. And these are those who claim that I am a legend. And there are those who claim that I am a legend as well. If so, I am proud to be counted in the company of such as these. And then we get a little quote here from the Bible at the end. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of the world. Ephesians 6:12. And finally, the new beginning. So great final shot here of our heroes arrayed. So this is kind of a sort of a symbolic shot because Wonder Woman had already left. But it's just a cool like final, almost like a little mini poster of the heroes from the series. Quick view of our letters page here. Editor Mike Gold still exhorts people to send in letters because those can be printed in the upcoming series. The Flash, Suicide Squad, Justice League, and the Shazam miniseries. And we do have I'm going to read a funny letter from Uncle Elvis, one of my favorite letter hacks from the era, from the letter page era, along with T.M. Maple and a few others. He says, "Hey, Mr. Mike, if I don't receive an advance copy of Suicide Squad #1, there's going to be hell to pay." Uncle Elvis, Dawson Springs, Kentucky. And Mike replies, "Geez, I think you're getting spoiled, Uncle Elvis." We're going to investigate this as we move forward and read and cover Suicide Squad, but I do think Uncle Elvis does end up getting a photocopied early look at Suicide Squad. So here, one final hype box. Okay, it's the end of the series, so it's time to tell you what happens next. Next week, you will meet the all-new Justice League. That's by Keith Giffen, writer, Kevin Maguire, penciler, Terry Austin, inker, and Andrew Helfer, editor. Then, after a double-length story in Secret Origins, you'll be seeing the Suicide Squad #1, a new monthly written by Legends' own John Ostrander, penciled by Luke McDonnell, and inked by Carl Kessel. Yep, that Carl Kessel. And edited by Robert Greenberger. A couple weeks after that, you'll be seeing Flash #1 by writer Mike Barron, penciler Jackson Geis, and inker Larry Malstedt. And then Shazam: A New Beginning by Roy Thomas, Tom Mandrake, and associate editor Greg Weisman. So that, folks, is the end of our coverage of the 6-issue Legends Limited series. I hope you liked it. It was certainly a blast to read through it. If you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll bring you more coverage of more cool comics on Scott Reads Comics soon. Thanks for watching.